You want to see something really scary?
You bet.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, this is really, really scary now.
I trust you.
Hello, Internet fans. It's your old pal Rottin Roger DeMarco here from RepulsiveReviews.com. This week, we're going to talk about Rusty Cundiff and Darren Scott's 2018 film, Tales from the Hood 2. So here's the plot rundown. Mr. Sims, from the first Tales from the Hood, who was played by Clarence Williams III in the first film. The role has been taken over by Keith David on this film. He's back and he's telling stories. The government is building robotic police officers. They hire Mr. Sims to tell these stories about racism, rape, all these terrible stories, to give these robots some form of artificial intelligence to understand what is violent behavior, what is a crime. There are 4 segments to this film, 2 of which I really liked. But before I get into my overall thoughts of this film, first, let's take a look at Rottin Roger's Splatter Facts. We have 13 dead bodies, and we have 0 titties. I know, I'm just as disappointed as the rest of you.
See, James, big breastises?
No breastises.
I gotta have me the big breast! I gotta have me the big breast!
And the methods of death include, but are not limited to, whipping, getting cut in half, puppet birthing, punched, twisted neck, shredded glass swallowing, electrocuted, eaten alive, and shot with big lasers. That's a plot point. The bigger laser, the better. Like I said, we have 4 segments. But before the segments start, the wraparound story itself, which is Mr. Sims telling these robots these crazy stories. I have no issues with the writing or the directing of the wraparound story, but the cinematography of it is disorienting. I'm not sure why the cinematographer decided to spin in a circle around them. It's really jarring. Takes you out of it, makes it look a little cheap. Now, the first Tales from the Hood movie from 1995 is tough to beat, folks. It's a fantastic anthology film. It does not fall short anywhere, with the exception of some dated green screening. Stop motion animation, which has a special place in my heart, so I don't even vault that movie for it. But this movie, it's 50-50. We have 4 segments. In my opinion, 2 of them are really worth their salt. I don't want to say anything super negative about this movie because I love Rusty Cundiff. I love the work he does. Fear of a Black Hat is fantastic. Tales from the Hood is fantastic. But this movie feels like when you get to the last segment, which is the best segment out of the 4, the whole movie hinged on this segment. It's so well done. It could be a Twilight Zone episode. It's hard to get to the last story, although there's some very funny stuff in a segment with a phony psychic. Is the second best out of them. I'm not gonna spoil too many things about these stories. We have a vampire segment which really felt out of place. I do appreciate the social commentary involved. There's some stuff about this movie that really drops the ball. Some CGI that is questionable, green screen stuff that is atrocious, but hey man, I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse. This is nothing. When you compare it to the original, it falls extremely short. But that being said, I had a fucking fun time. I laughed. It is so edgy, and the social commentary is a fucking hot cup of coffee in the morning. You're gonna watch this, you're gonna be like, man, that sucks.
Man, that sucks!
Keith David does a really good job of trying to fill Clarence Williams III's shoes, but even as awesome as Keith David is, it's just not the same. It feels wrong to replace Clarence Williams III with him. He does what he can. He's the Crypt Keeper, essentially, so he has to keep your interest, bring you these stories, but the wraparound story itself is just kind of eh. They do bring back Clarence Williams III's famous "the shit." Ah, yes, the shit, which immediately brings a smile to my face, but instead of just doing it once as a nod, we get it a couple of times. then it's like, yeah, okay. You really want me to remember how awesome the first one is, which can work against you because then I'm sitting there going, man, I should watch that first one again. So in my personal opinion, I gotta give it 2 out of 5 blood drops. Am I gonna watch it again? Yeah, I'm gonna watch it again. I liked certain things about it. I thought it was fun. I knew what I was getting into, and I know that the general consensus is the movie is not that good, and that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the movie is terrible. I'm not saying that the movie is atrocious. I'm just saying that the movie is not as good as the first one. It's worth renting. It's worth checking out on Netflix. It's worth buying. It just might not be your cup of tea, but if you dig anthology films, you know, that's the best part about anthology films, is it's a mixed bag. Hey, fuck, 2 out of 4 ain't bad. It's 4 stories. They're not all gonna be winners. This movie is its own thing. It's fun enough for what it is. It's a direct-to-video sequel to a movie that came out in 1995. It's not the worst thing I've seen. It's not the best thing I've seen. Because after all, there's a lot of movies out there. Somebody's got to watch them. So why not me? Right?
But how big are Jane's breastises?
Gigantor.